Hello and welcome to the Extraordinarium Show. You're listening to medium and exorcist Ralph Keaton. The following podcast is taken from the Exorcist Diaries. In today's show, we'll be talking to one of our experts, Steve Hemingway. So, I thought we'd start our podcast off by, because we're going to do a series of them, that's the thing. And I thought the first one might be, with the advent of things we're seeing on telly, it's how do you know if you've got a haunted house or a haunted property or things around you? So, I always, I've got a load of notes here for us to kind of follow, but I just thought one of the things I always think of, whenever you go into a property, Steve, I don't know about you, but does it feel like somebody's watching you?
I think sometimes it does. It depends on case, doesn't it, usually, you know? But I mean, most people during early stages of hauntings, when we deal with cases, will say that they feel like they're being watched, you know, or there's a presence around them or whatever. Now, that may be heightened anxieties and stress due to situation that they think they're in, you know, or it may be that there is a presence.
Yeah, because I mean, something has to trigger it, doesn't it? I mean, you can't just go into a property or you can't live somewhere and then think, oh, is it haunted? I think something's triggered it. And I often find that a lot of people I've dealt with, it's usually because they felt a bit strange or they think there's somebody there, or sometimes it might be they catch something in the corner of their eye.
Yeah.
And they think, what was that? And it sparks them up. You know, it starts that thing of what's going on. But I know as a rule of thumb, I tend to sort of ask people a few questions really before I get to see them or talk to them. Yeah. And one of them, generally, I'm talking about is, does it feel, when you're going through the property, does each room feel the same, or is there an odd feeling in a certain area?
Yeah, I get you with that. I get you there with that. It's, I mean, my own experience, I get quite a few times I've had where I've maybe gone in and sometimes there's almost like a rocking to the floor, as though our room seems out of sync. It's, do you know what I mean? Like angles aren't right in it or something. There's some strange thing making you think there's something not right about in this room, you know. But there's a lot of people who'll suggest different things. I mean, you can even go as far as time slips and stuff like that when you're going into rooms, can't you? You know, streets, all this kind of stuff. It is an odd feeling. It is an odd feeling.
It's almost like that deja vu thing, isn't it? Oh, I feel like I've been here before. Or yeah, the dizziness. That's, you know, you could. For me, I put that down to an energy. An energy is coming close, and it can throw your sense of balance, or your hearing off. You know, and that, you're right. You can get that kind of a rocking motion, a sick feeling. I've had a case where I've had somebody said they were lying on the bed and they felt like the room was spinning. You know, almost like you've had a few too many, but they hadn't.
I think we've all experienced that one, haven't we? It's a different kind of spirit.
yeah, but here's the good thing. At least somebody, you know, you can think logically about it and think, oh, is it because I'm laid down? Is it because I'm stood up? Is it because it feels like something's there? But it's that lovely feeling of something's different, something's going on. And these are little clues to things that there might well be. I mean, obviously, you've got to sit down and say, "Are you feeling well? Are you, you know, have you had a long day? Do you get vertigo when you stand up? Things like that." But if you rule that out and say, "Well, actually, under normal circumstances, it feels like something's going on with the property."
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you would rule everything out. You rule all electrical readings, all that kind of stuff, but best way to rule all that is get professionals in that do that job.
Yes.
That's their job, to come in and rule it out like we do. You know, you'll always check for electrical faults. We know there's evidence that electricity, you know, can cause headaches, dizziness, all these kind of symptoms that people... In fact, more symptoms with an haunting look like coincidence.
Yeah.
As from an outside point of view, don't they?
Yeah.
You know, first thing you start saying is, oh, well, you know, have you eaten anything different? Have you changed your diet? Are you sleeping? Do you take drugs? Do you take alcohol? Do you do this? Do you do that? You know, that you go through all these eliminating processes, and then you're still left with, yeah, but I feel like I'm being watched, or this room don't feel right when I'm in it, or there's a, you know, classic stuff like there's cold chills in it, or cold spots,
Yeah.
or hot spots even.
Yeah.
You know, tappings and noises and all these kinds of things. It's almost like it's coincidence. It's there to make you look mad in a way.
Yeah.
Because you start to doubt your own beliefs, don't you? We've all had shadows in corners, eyes and things, and thought, oh my God, who's that who's just walked in or whatever, and then you realise they hadn't.
Yeah.
And it kind of unnerves you maybe for that split second, you know. But then your brain realises it's an hallucination, or it's a trick at light, or it's an eye defect. So there's all these kind of things that you've got to rule out first, isn't there?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's funny because you've just rattled off quite a lot of things that I had written down on my things. Like I've got written here. Is there hot and cold spots? Sorry, Steve. Just said that again. It cut off.
I said honestly, I didn't look at mine while I was reading off.
Well, no. It's just you. There are. For me, there's a lot of common things which tells you if you've got a property, and one of them is a hot and a cold spot. Because I get a lot of people saying to me, "I've got a ghost and it was cold, you know, it's freezing and stuff." And but what people forget is you actually do get hot spots as well. It doesn't matter; it's one way or the other. And I always look at it as though you're giving out energy or you're receiving energy. So if you're giving out energy, you feel cold.
Yeah.
If it's giving you energy, you feel warm. It warms you up. So it's kind of like two ways. But they're all subtle, little subtle differences that start to make it look like this property's got something going on.
Yeah.
We talk about noises, and I always look for that one where if people are having a conversation and suddenly they get a bang in the roof, or a bang on the wall, or a sudden knock. If it's happening on a what I call a regular basis, then you start to go, is there somebody else trying to communicate with me? Yeah. So I usually say, if you get in that, ask it a question, or say something you know is a positive answer, and it should be fairly quick to go bang.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And I know around me, for instance, when I've gone into buildings and I've started talking and saying, yes, there's somebody in here, we've got one then.
That's got to have picked that up, surely.
Oh my God! But that's the point, though. It's like when I say there's anybody in it, and it goes bang. Then I know but I know that's a communication I've got. I can't believe that. Yeah. But it's gone on because I always say that everything's subtle. It builds up. So if you've got a haunted property or a start of a property building up, it works its way up gently, doesn't it? You know, it's like getting to know somebody.
Yeah, usually, yeah. I think more extreme cases of think something's been done. You know, when you're looking at, I mean, we're talking about ghosts. We're talking about human spirits, aren't we? Basically, and obviously there's non-human things as well. The signs of an early classic haunting are, like you said, they're very subtle. And it's a build-up over a period, a time which could even be years. You know, little things moving along. Whereas, I mean, it is same with non-human as well. But there's also that, I think, there's a contributing factor that whoever's there and whoever's it's engaging with, whatever, has participated in some ploy, you know, and it's usually far extremer a case that we're involved in anyways at that stage. But for a classical human haunting and stuff, it's, you know, you get these little just enough just to get your kind of attention in a way.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily always get everybody's attention, does it?
No, that's the point about it. That in a lot of cases, it's not dramatic. It's not like loud noises or massive interruptions. It's subtlety, and it because I know for a fact that once it starts to get your attention, it knows it's got your attention, so therefore it can start to do more. You know? Yeah. And you are right.
Yeah, it's almost like it's. I mean, talking in later shows and stuff, we'll go through it and things, but you're entering into a contract, aren't you, with whatever it is?
Yeah.
That's how I would view it from my side. So if you engage with whatever you think it is, then it will play that part for so long,
Yeah.
you know, and then it could go either way, couldn't it?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's that thing of, so you'll then do that, because once you've got used to a noise thing, I often find people then start telling me that they thought they heard somebody, or a whisper, or because once the noise is connected and it knows that you're listening, that's when you get the voice, you get the odd little voice or a background word, and that kind of starts to shock people a bit, I think.
Yeah. I think that it's like your general keys going missing and when you need them and things like that, you know, just general things. I'm sure I turned that light off. They're all things that kind of make you question yourself.
Yeah.
Before you start saying to your husband or your wife or whatever, have you noticed out going off with this, or did you move this, or, you know, and then it kind of becomes an after dinner of a kitchen table conversation about what can it be kind of thing, you know, and you've got classic roles. You know, we'll turn around, man will usually say, "You're talking rubbish, I don't want nothing to do with it."
Yeah.
And then your wife, the wife's left then kind of thinking, well, I'm a crackers, or what's going off, yeah. You know. It's a strange dynamic when it actually, even starting from earlier, you know, early stages, like you said, with little taps and all these like little hints of things. It's strange how it can change dynamics in an house and a family.
Yeah.
Just at that point, you know.
Yeah, I've like you. I've found it builds up. So you'll get the noise, you'll get the voices, and then you start getting. For me, it's usually objects start to move, not necessarily disappear or appear. It's usually moving. So I've had no end of people telling me they've looked at a painting on a wall or a photograph, and it's like, who moved that? And they don't think anything of it, just correct it, and then a day or two later, it's moved again. Or the one that I find is the one that's creepy is the door opening.
Yeah.
Just a little movement, and it catches your eye, and you go, "What was that? Did that move?"
I mean, most families get to a point with it. As soon as something happens, once they get over that like kind of initial fear part of it, because these are only little things, remember, aren't they? It's you know, they happen to everybody every day.
Yeah.
It's just that we don't acknowledge it or we don't respond to any on it. It's just part of what happens.
Yeah.
But you start getting your family, then we'll start to like, well, that door's just shut. Right. Everybody go out and check if there's a window open. Everybody check if there's something that open. And usually there will be a contradicting factor to say, well, it could have been. And that family's left none the wise.
Yeah,
you're back to square one again, aren't you?
It's dismissed again. Yeah, and I think that again is another good thing, because once you've done the correct, you know, let's find out what it is. Is it that? Is it? But I find you generally don't give up. So then you'll find that that's when they start to do this thing of, right, I'm going to do something a bit more. So they'll move your keys, or they'll just disappear.
Yeah.
You know, for me, that's kind of like a long way into how a property gets really haunted, because by the time it's starting to make things appear and disappear, you're talking about something that's quite strong. It's got its energy going really well. But all these little subtle ones early on, where it is little door movement or a piece of paper, that I've seen it where we've been watching and somebody's undone a book, and that book has been there for ages, and then suddenly a leaf turns over. You know, or the book twists. It's because I was sat in a house once and that happened, and I looked and thought, nah, it's obviously the page. It's obviously the page going there. Yeah. Within about 2 or 3 minutes later, the next one's turned over, and then to cap it back, it turned back. You know, it flipped. Instead of going the same way all the time, it went back, and I was like, no, that's a bit. That's definitely saying hello. You know, there's more to it.
Yeah, this is it.
The one I like is. Because we've talked about like movements and stuff, is the one I love is a case I went to where objects were turning up, not disappearing, turning up, and they weren't even they weren't even theirs, you know. Yeah. So it will be like a key fob turned up at one house and it wasn't even their key fob. You know, I have had another house where it was one single shoe turned up. a man's shoe. And it's like, well, where did that come? And you know, first of all, you think, is it the kids? Is it something? Did I bring it back? But when you get these odd things turning up, they're again a nice level, you know.
Yeah.
Right, there's a purpose to a lot of what they do. So if they're using a piece of paper or a door, or they're using something to say I'm here, that's something they know that should trigger a thought or a pattern in you that goes, oh, that would be so and so. That's they used to do that.
Yeah. Anything else, it won't. It's not, is it? You know. If you're looking for something, desperately looking for something, and you can't find it, and you know you need your car keys to go to some, you know, kids have run from school or whatever, there's something, and you can't find, and you've got what you believe to be an haunting at the beginning. It's not family that's going to hide. They're not going to hide a set of keys.
No.
Somebody that loved you while they were alive, I'm going to hide a set of keys, and India on that process.
Yeah.
And a lot of these things are really early indications, are really easy to see. Once you know, obviously, but a lot of teams don't see any of that because they've already gone in. They get a case, they get told a little bit of information, and they've already decided what it is before they go in.
Yes.
99% of these cases do that, you know, and 90% of that is media influenced from paranormal programs and stuff like that. That, you know, I mean, you know yourself, you've done these programs, you've done them, you know.
Yeah.
In early days when I think there were that program and another one from America, and that's all that there was.
Yes.
And it were kind of a fresh approach to everything coming out, but then obviously it's have gone on. It's on every channel.
It is,
you know,
yeah.
There's a million,
and they've ramped it up. But you know, even then they've not looked at what actual fact, what is going on, So yes, you might get a bang. Yes, you might get a noise. Yes, you might get something moving, or yes, you might get physically contacted. But why?
Yeah.
Why is it chose to touch you? You know,
exactly.
And then I've seen an awful lot of them run. And it's like, well, it wouldn't have done that to you if it was trying to make you run. It was doing it to show you something. So you've got to brave it a bit, I think, and go, all right, you know, let's.
But I think that's where that subtlety is on it. I mean, obviously, we're both human and non-human. It can be very, very subtle coming in. If you know, a wolf don't run into a pack of sheep, does it?
No.
Airbrained and it prowls and it picks its time and everything. But when you're dealing with like what we would say is a family member or something that you believe's come back, there's no indication or anything really that's going to frighten you in a sense, because it is that subtle. There's a little rap, a little tap that you can easily say, oh, it's eating, or it's this, that, and other, or it's a fan turning on, or you know, somebody's left window open and doors blown on, all these. You can say all them things about it. It's only when they get that message over that, you know, you might have a conversation with your husband or your wife, and you might say what it wants. Yeah. Because of, and then you'll never hear it again. Yes. You know, it kind of goes. It's been voiced, whatever's needed to be voiced, and that's it. Yeah. You know.
And I think you're right. Coming back to where we were with it, it's those subtle things. I mean, one of the things I always say people to look out for is the interruption of sleep. Yeah. Because your whole body's relaxing, and as it's an energy form that's coming in, it can interrupt what you're doing. So it might make you feel like you want to cough or suddenly wake up. Or the other one is it might suddenly think, because of the way it can communicate, I'll get into your dream and I'll give you a weird, wild dream. And that wakes you up. You know, it's the nightmare scenario, you know, where your brain sorts out things and it tries to, and so sometimes it could create a nightmare. But actual fact, I've had it with kids, you know, where I've had parents come to me, say to me, he's having nightmares. And then I go, well, right, there's obviously a psychological system that we need to look at, but if it's not that, then we need to look at why it's making that child wake up or do what it's doing. So we have to abate it, you know. But sleep is one of those things, because I've also found that most people wake up in what I would call that deathly hour, you know, 2 till 3, or in around those hours. And it's because that's when you're most relaxed. That's when your sleep is at its best pattern. But if it's happening on a constant basis, it's subtle, but there it is. It's in front of you. Something's happening. You know.
I mean, going back to like with kids and that, there's that overstimulation before going to bed and stuff. Like years ago, we didn't have computer games and talking to your pals over all that kind of stuff. None of that happened.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we didn't even have a telly when we were about 7.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And then it had a fish slice in it for an aerial. You know what I mean?
Oh, don't. You're going to take me back to my sixpence in the back of a telly time when I remember that.
Took 20 minutes to tune channel in, and there were only 2.
That's right, yeah. God, we're showing our
But
ages.
you didn't have them. When you look at cases back then to now and involving young people and that, there's a lot more stimulus and there's a lot more violence. And all these kind of things all add up for when you do start to turn off and say, I need some rest now. Your brain's going to present all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we have to take that into account with nightmares. But like you said, these nightmares tend to lead somewhere.
Yes.
They have a purpose and a story to them. And we dream all the time, but we never remember most of it.
Yes.
When you're remembering night after night after night, and you've got other things going off in your house that's led you to, you know, to be in this sort of position with, you've got to start adding it up then, haven't you? Then that's when you've got to start looking at now then. You know, there could be something a bit more different going off here.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I always say that the odder the event, because it's not, if it's not norm, it's odd. That's when you're starting to look at, you've got something going on in the property, you've got a haunting, something's going on.
Absolutely.
Because I always say to people, you know, if they're ever going to contact us or ever want to chat to us, it's like, before you come to me, write down the things you've noticed that are odd, the oddities, not necessarily a bump or a bang, but it could be that thing of you wake up and it's 11:11. Or you know, 5:55. You know, that kind of. But
that's another one, Ralph. That's another one though. We did have digital clocks. The 11:11. The 5. You know, so. But again, you've got to look at that. It can be used to do that. You know, there can be a tap on your shoulder or a cold breeze to make you turn and look and see a clock at that, or you wake up and it's that time, or there's a significance within it, but it's not an ancient thing, is it? You know?
No, yeah.
You know, I think that you've got to be careful of theories.
Yes.
When you're dealing with things like this, you've got to. The first thing not to do is don't looking for things and try and explain it yourself. If you can't rationally explain away, you know, some electrical's happening, I get somebody in, they come and have a look at it. No, there's no wrong way. All right. It might be one of them things, or we'll see if it keeps repeating itself and doing whatever. Or you get the guy that comes and he just says, yeah, it's electrical fault.
Yeah.
And that's end of that.
Yeah.
You know, it's how you respond, isn't it? It really is how you respond. And that's another defining factor as well on its intent to make you respond.
Yeah. And it's looking for your reaction. So, that's the big thing up there. We've just done another one. There we go. The other big thing is, what I've found is they're looking for your reaction. They want to know what you're doing. Are you reacting in a good way or a bad way? Is it scaring you? Is it making you feel uncomfortable? Because they're all, like you've said, we'll go back to it, but a friendly family member in spirit is not going to sit and make you feel scared. They want to make you feel comfortable, because they'll adjust what they're doing if they're seeing you're getting scared. Yeah.
I mean, there's no end of stories, is there, about kids that, really young children that have said, oh, you know, this lady's come and talked to me at night or whatever. When the voice starts to the parents concerned, oh, something's come in, is it a ghost, is it this, is it, and all this stuff goes off. When in fact, that situation has happened. That human ghost or spirit relative has come, seen that child, had that discussion of whatever it is, and then gone.
Yeah.
The likelihood it's going to come back is nil. You know, and we had a lot of them cases, you know. It's when it's waking the kid up In it.
Some of the things we're going to talk about later, Steve, are ghosts with children, types of signs, things to look out for, how to deal with it, things like that. And I think that's one of the nice things about doing this sort of thing. It's, if we look at this program that we're doing at the minute, it's what are those early signs. One of the key ones that I know is a bit of an anomaly, and I've written it down here in front of me because I got asked this, was why does somebody get wet spots? Why is there like they'll have a wet spot on the floor and there's no reason for it? It's or they'll one woman undid her oven and the tray that contained where all the fats and things would go was just water, and so and I always say to everybody that obviously the air's got oxygen and water in it, and so any spirit that's around can pull that and it can drain water out of the air. So, but they're clues to say I'm here. Now, depending where it gets wet, depends on whether or not we've got a naughty ghost or not. Because if it's going to be naughty, it's going to make wetness a near an electrical object.
Yeah, absolutely.
Forget kettles and things like that, because they're going to get.
Well, little fires is another one, isn't it?
Yes, that's the other one. They're little.
I mean, we have got a brilliant show about fires, haven't we?
Yeah.
That case is like one of a kind,
awesome.
Completely.
Awesome.
Absolute one of a kind special,
We've got the lady.
The little fires is a usual one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just little. Just caught enough for you to catch it and put it out.
That's it. It's the start of it. It's just that start of which going to do something, because it's that little things of watching out for what could be, because if you don't get these small signs early, it escalates, it gets bigger. And I've always sort of said this show's about what are all those little ones, little things like leaving or entering a room where you shiver. They're also clues, Don't get me wrong, if it's a temperature drop in the room, that's going to make you feel, But if you're talking about a house that's heated fairly well in most cases, and you've still got a shiver going on, something's going on. The one I love, that I get a lot of people telling me, is that thing of they're going up the stairs and eventually they start walking up the stairs nice and gently, then eventually they're running up it because they feel like something's behind them,
Yeah.
And but the clues again, because under normal circumstances you don't get that.
Well, why would you be scared in your own house?
Yes. Yeah, but again, that's coming down.
I get I've lived in different houses and stuff, and some houses I've felt, it's a little bit odd, this house, and I get that, I understand that feeling, but once you've lived in a house for a period of time and it's your property, you've put your mark on it and everything, then there's nothing in rules that says that you've got to feel uncomfortable in your own house.
True. Seriously, that's very true.
And they're certainly into a relative or a loved one or somebody that wants to communicate that's going to frighten you.
No,
because what purpose would it wouldn't, if I jump out now and go ooh as a ghost, as this spirit, I'm going to terrify them. They're not going to want to find out what I'm wanting.
Yeah,
they're just going to run off every time I do something on it. So
you're right.
There's method in madness, isn't there?
I'm going to tell you about a little case I had with a child. Although I don't want to go into it too much because we are going to talk about things later on. But there was one with a child who had a little toy, and basically, if you move the toy, there was a bell inside it, and it made a little ring. So as you move the toy, it would ring. Now, this woman was saying this toy would ring at night. You could hear it. She knew a child was in the bed, so she took the toy out the room and put it in her own room, and it was still ringing in her room, And what they'd completely forgotten about was that toy was bought by the grandmother, and it was the only thing the grandmother knew, and the grandmother thought that if by moving this toy it would entertain the child. Because the child was awake, but it was, and that turned into a terrifying thing. But actually, when you look at it in simple terms, you think, no, actually, it wasn't going to hurt you. It wasn't going to. It was just trying to be very friendly, and we get it. And this is what I'm saying about a lot of programs I'm watching. They're getting it wrong in a lot of cases. They're not running around trying to. Don't get me wrong, it is scary.
Yeah, I mean, no, and it's you. It's usually when you're on your own it happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which doesn't help, does it? It doesn't help, does it? You know?
Yeah, Steve, I'm going to tell you, wait, I am planning for us to go and do something where we are going to be on our own.
Great.
No, I'm just getting it in place because it's a really lovely property, but I want you to experience it. I want your view on it. So we're going to put you in a room. You're going to sit and get what the feelings are. Then I'm going to go in, and we're just going to see what goes on around it, because I want to show the public and the people out there that that there are common things that you might interpret one way and I'll interpret another. And
Absolutely.
I find it fascinating.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's the thing, is what works so well is with cases, what we work on. It's completely different angles that we come at.
Yeah.
But the main priority is all along it is what's its intent.
Yes.
That's the thing, innit? You know, if we know that this thing's going to spiral, that's when we start putting things in place and, you know, think this is happening and that's happening and don't do this, don't do that comes out, you know, all them kind of things.
Yeah.
But it is that universal approach to it, at looking at it from different angles, but really looking at, there's an old saying that the devil's in the detail.
Yes.
And it certainly is.
Yes.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
Even at them very early stages, that's your fork in the road, isn't it?
Yeah. But I think it's those subtle differences early on that make a difference to a property. And I've found that they like to communicate, Steve, that it's good or bad. They love the communication. They love the interaction. And it's just defining whether or not it's at a level that you need the likes of you and me in. Because in a lot of cases, these subtle little things that we've been talking about, little bangs, little bumps, doors, moving things, are just ways of saying, hi, it's me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because I relate this to people by saying, you know, if I'm walking down the street and I see you and I recognise you, I'll wave you from a distance. If you wave back, I know you've communicated. If you don't, I'll carry on waving. And then after a while, I might throw something at you as if to say, well, you've missed me. Or I might even shout, in actual fact. Yeah. And then it shocks somebody because they go, bloody hell, he's shouting, you know. But it's looking at these things and going, you need to be able to interact. But not to be frightened of it. And it's holding your nerve.
Yeah, but I think that it's a big indicator is that if you continue to feel uncomfortable or really uneasy with this, I understand at the beginning that, you know, you hear some, like you might hear some footsteps or whatever, and you know there's nobody at the house.
Yeah.
That's unnerving, I get that. If that continues and it's making you more unnerving and more scared, then I think that's where you need to get kind of in touch with somebody just for a bit of...
Yes.
Kind of for some support going through situations.
Yes, yeah.
But also the advice on what to do now, because my fear is feeding this in a sense.
Yes.
You know, the minute you start communicating with it, it's onto another level. It's moved on from, I need to get your attention. I've got it.
Yes, that's it.
Now it's, do I frighten you to death every day? Do I give you sleep? You know, all these sorts of other scenarios that go here. But when you look back at beginnings of that, you've started off with a footstep or a knock or doors opened or, like you say, a page has turned, or your keys are missing, or there's a funny little smell, or, oh, that smells like me nanan's perfume.
Yes.
There's a big difference smelling like it and it actually being that original smell, isn't there?
Yes.
You know, there's always a little fault there with something bad. It's never perfect, is it?
Well, I mean, the funny thing is, I always say to people, you know, rely on your gut instinct. You know, it's like the difference between somebody saying, "I think I've seen a ghost," and somebody saying, "I've seen a ghost." The second I've seen a ghost, you know immediately they have. But anybody. So the moment you doubt something, you know you're not on the right track. The one that one thing that I must mention, I've forgotten about it, but just remember now is you sometimes will get that smoky, misty effect sometimes.
Good one.
Yeah,
good one. Yeah,
and it's what is that? And I always say that's the beginnings of a ghost that's going to visually appear.
Manifest.
It's pulling it together. It's pulling the dust in the air. It's pulling the water in there. It's pulling it together, and that's usually a clue we've moved on to another level. It's moving on a bit more because it's got the audacity to sort of go, well, now I'm going to make myself be seen, and that is another program, like, but it's another way of saying we're moving on.
It's a great point to make. It's a great point to make. So we're early indications when you're looking at, like you said, it's a great point that things are pulling together usually to manifest. But then again, there's that illusion as well with things, isn't there? That even though it's early and it's little stages, that illusion of what it wants you to see in a way. If it's a relative or it's somebody that knows you or the other things than that, they will do something or indicate something that you will know instantly what it is. You wouldn't have to go away and think, nah, then, what it me Auntie Floris that did this, or Auntie Phyllis that did that? You'd know instantly. And usually then it'll stop, it'll just dissipate. Your activity will start to disappear a bit. It's that repetitive, when it's repeating.
Yeah.
But then you're looking at, you've got classic, we're in sort of media world, the stone tape theory, where it's something, can it be a ghost that's repeating itself, that's in kind of like a loop, which we know happens, or is it something that's not in a loop and it's doing things to whatever, you know?
Yeah.
But well, you've got stone tape where it's a non-intelligent thing because it's not interacting with you. If you shouted it 1,000 times on a megaphone, it wouldn't turn around and look at you, it wouldn't do any of them things, it would just carry on its path and do and go.
Yeah.
As opposed to even early stages where normal, there's an intelligence there.
Yes.
No matter what, there is an intelligence there. And you've got to respect that intelligence. You know, and I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, where they think that, oh, well, I can just shout at it, or I can just, you know, this, that, and other. They don't work like that.
No, it does not work like that. No, it does not. And that's actually a point people forget, that everybody assumes that these energies, the hauntings you're getting, aren't clever.
Yeah.
You know, and I've got to kind of pull that apart and go, no. The fact that it's clever enough to make a noise near you, that it's worked out how to do that, is far beyond what you and I are doing. It's worked it out. It knows it's done to make a pair of keys disappear or an object move. That's some thought, you know, and that's also some energy force, you know. And we because in life, it's easy for you and I to pick up a pen and move it without the effort. That's because we've got physical being. When you're dealing with an energy force that can do that, it's a level above us. It's moved on a bit, you know. And I feel that you know, it should be said to people, you know, don't mistreat these things. These things do know what's going on. They do know what's progressing, and they do know where we are. We had a blip then. Did it go out?
Yeah, that were interesting at that point as well, weren't it?
We're talking about intelligence.
What you were saying.
Yeah. We're talking about intelligence, and so I'm just looking at my monitor to make sure that it's come through. But yeah, it's I'll repeat it. It's we underestimate it because we just assume a small bump and a small thump is something simple, and it's not. That it's quite a level of energy activity, you know.
Absolutely.
You only have to do that thing of, in simple terms, if you flick a light bulb on, everybody just has got so used to a light bulb, they don't think about that's a pretty powerful force.
Yeah.
You don't have to wet your fingers and stick your fingers in it, and you'll soon find out how powerful it is. But yet you just assume it's a simple thing. And what we're forgetting is that these things are the same. They start off subtle, but they build up.
Yeah.
And if you've got a property that's got anything like this going on in it, first of all, we'd like to know, because obviously I love getting emails off people. Yeah. And if anybody's going to do anything like this, then they need to email the team at ralphkeaton.co.uk and we'll respond. But the other side of it is, I find that it's the subtle things that make a bit more difference to me. I'm not necessarily in for this big loud bangs. It's the little thing, and I look and go, actually, you know.
I prefer if it's nothing and it's just an electrical fault.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
To be fair.
Yeah, it's true, actually. Yeah, it's actually, funny enough, this
Likelihood is when we come in at that stage, it's not nice.
No.
It don't want to go, and it ain't playing.
It's funny, isn't it? I always say to everybody that we're the last call, we're the fifth emergency service. You know, we're the last one anybody thinks of calling, and then when we do, it's because it's got to such an extent we've got to deal with it.
Yeah. I mean, we need to make it clear as well, Ralph, is that although we laugh and joke about these things, this is part of our life. It's not a thing that we pick up at a weekend.
No.
This is work. This is the job you do. You know, you find that you get to a certain point in your life where you've acquired a lot of skills from different jobs that you've had and people and, you know, engagements with people and all these things. But when you're there on your own, or there's just us there, it's a completely different ballgame to think that you are far more intelligent than that.
Yeah.
We're at a stage where, like we've said before, there's rules, there's a way of playing it, and you can be absolutely nailed on 100% that it knows every rule, every trick, every trap, everything. You don't. It's as simple as.
Yeah.
You know, so when you go into these things, you've got to expect that it will attack you back.
Yeah.
If it turns out to be not a human thing. I mean, usually it would be rare that we would even turn up for a human haunting, to be fair. Unless it needed to be, you know, resolved in such a way. But 99% of the time, they do it themselves. Just get on with it and do it yourselves. We'll tell you what to do.
Yes.
And you just do it yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and it'll stop.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's actually our next program. Our next program's going to be self-help. How can you do something? What steps can you take? How can you make something safe? Because we need to talk about that to people before we get involved in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that I was looking at with some of the stuff here is there's about 5 or 6 nice easy steps you can do to resolve a fair few things, and in most cases it'll lower it down or it'll answer questions, you know. And I think that's where we're going. Yeah,
I think that. I mean, idea behind all this really is to give some people some insight into what we do, but also into an insight of being able to help yourself to do these things. You know, you shouldn't really get to a stage where you need us in.
Yes.
You know, if you get into that stage, then you more than likely have done something.
Correct. Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
You know, and there's certain rules, and if you break the certain ones, then it fast tracks a lot of things, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, that's why I'd always be careful as well. It is like when, even if you believe you at beginnings of an haunting, or you know, you're getting these little things going off and that. Stop watching horror movies. Stop reading horror books. Stop watching violence. I know it's difficult to find a program that hasn't got them things in them, but just kind of take yourself away from things that are negative, in a sense, and seek out positive things. You know. And usually that can help.
Yes.
That can dissipate it and it can go. You know, there's a lot of little things, just changing little things, you know, just to help you than picking phone up straight away and getting a team in or people to come, and cameras and EMF meters and all these things and gadgets and all this stuff. None of it solves a case. Not one bit of it will solve a case. You know,
it's down to
don't record out yourself.
It's down to human interaction to physically stop this thing, because you're right. There are no Ghostbusters gadgets to do it. When you look at that film and they're catching, that's not possible. It's I'm not.
I wish it was.
Yeah, so do I. what a lovely way of having a removing ghosts. Yeah, but it just doesn't work that way. And no piece of equipment can tell you what's going on neither. You know, so It's definitely a human interaction, because that's how it started. It started interacting with you, not your telly, not your light bulbs. It's you.
Yeah.
So it's worth it. But so as not to terrify everybody, I've got to sort of say that most houses you're fine in, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, I think we've kind of covered. I don't know about what you're thinking, but I think we've kind of covered everything regarding that interaction of how a haunting gets going and what some of the signs are, you know. We're going to come back to the reason for this program was it's the subtle little things that make the difference. And, you know, it doesn't matter what goes on, but it's recognising the fact that there might be something there. But providing you kind of, for me anyway, recognising that, yes, I've got a haunted property, yes, something's going on, it's kind of accepting it and going, okay, I don't want to do a massive amount with it. I'll just accept the fact it's there and off you go. But don't engage it.
No.
It will always tickle.
It's kind of observe from a distance, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we are kind of looking for it. You're not looking for it. Get it out of your head. Don't look for it. And if it's happening, then as we go on with these programs, there's things in there that'll explain what to do, nice and easy. You know, it doesn't have to go any further.
Yeah.
Either way, if it's good or it's bad, it doesn't have to go any further if you don't engage or carry on with it. Whatever it is, good or bad, it's got an intent.
Yes.
Be that I need you to do a certain thing before I can move on to my next stage in whatever faith I am and all this sort of thing. Or I want you to do that. I want you to because that allows me access.
That's it, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
If you do our job, treat everything as a trap.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah, but you've got to treat it. My way of dealing with it, Steve, is to sit down and go, right. Why are you doing that? What's this for? You know, and can we just appease this? Can we bring it down to a level where we're all? I call myself a negotiator, and that's kind of what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's can we make sure everything's a-okay? Can we leave it? Because no matter how much you can deal with it, there are others out there that can help you, you know, and it's kind of like, that's the thing is, it's finding the right people. It's took me years to find guys like you. It's taken me years to understand what's going on with it. And I think we're at a level now, we're at a point now where we can kind of come out and say to people, these are the early signs, these are the middle signs, this is this, that, what's this, what's that, and I think now we can start to build on this and say to people, just listen to us. We are going to give them stories. We are going to tell them about cases. I am going to talk about a few haunted objects, a few situations that go on. There are going to be people coming on talking about what they've dealt with, because you and I, Steve, have worked behind the scenes for many, many years, not necessarily coming out and screaming at everybody and saying this is what we're doing. But I do think it's time to sit back and say, you guys need educating a little bit more. You need to understand things a bit more, and understand where we're coming from. And we're not trying to scare you, although it's going to become that way, because no matter how you deal with this, there is always that far end. It's never that far away.
We want to prevent that, don't we? We want to prevent that. That's the thing, is preventing that from coming along. And there's a lot of ways of that happening, all different kind of angles, that we'll try and cover everything we can. But if you've got questions or whatever, email us. Email us.
Yeah, email. Yeah.
You know, messages, email us, do whatever you want to do, but get in touch and ask us. And there isn't a silly question. There isn't a daft question. Don't matter how much you read it over and you think you're saying that's just daft. So I'm not saying that way. Send it, because in these kind of situations, the silliest of little things may be the big thing.
Yes, and it can lead to a lot.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to close it down. Thanks very much for taking part, Steve. Thank you for listening to The Exorcist Diaries with Steve Hemingway and myself, Ralph Keaton. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the signs of a haunting. And if you're keen to hear more on the subject of hauntings, join us next time and we'll take a look at the subject in a more depth of how it affects you. In the meantime, check out our website at extraordinarium.co.uk, or my website ralphkeaton.co.uk for all our links to shows, videos, resources and more.